Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Dungeon Boss Respawned. This time we're gonna take a look at the Assassin family, which also consists of 4 heroes. You might know that Arya is in the game, but she is no longer an assassin, she is in fact an honor-bound hero now. So we only have 4 assassins. Let's start off with the first one, Serenity. This is the base skin. We have the Mage Hunter, and we have the Ultimate Serenity. All of these skins are from the original Dungeon Boss game, and if you don't have them, there's currently no way to obtaining them in the game. She is a legendary hero. Enslaved by wizards, she restores the natural order of things by culling magic with a vengeance. She has Spellseeker. Allies deal an additional 10% damage to caster class enemies, and caster class enemies start encounters with 1 stack of weakened for 3 turns. Pretty good against casters, obviously. Void Aura. Enemies start with 1 stack of null magic and gain 1 additional stack at the end of each round. So what is null magic? Null magic is basically a debuff that prevents the next buff. So if you have someone who would give an attack buff on the enemy team, or like invincible or something, but they have null magic, well, null magic is gonna eat up the buff that would have been applied, which is pretty decent. Master Assassin. So she got this from Arya. Arya had that before her. And now it's on Serenity. Increase attack and defense by 4% for all Assassin's allies, and deal increased damage the lower the health of this character targets are. I'm not sure if the second part also applies to all the Assassin allies, or if it's only for her. I think it's only for her, which, I mean, it kind of doesn't make sense to put a buff that applies to all assassin allies and a buff that only applies to herself in the same buff naming. But I guess they didn't think about that. Null magic technique. Assassins and rogue allies apply 1 stack of null magic to enemies on hit. Pretty great. Doesn't say anything about melee or ranged hit. Just says on hit. Pretty good. Adept strikes. Allies gain 1 stack of hastened after using a single target melee physical attack once per round. And as soon as you have 2 stacks of hastened, I think, your hero gets a +1 to their speed. So she starts at normal, which is a pretty hefty nerf. But I guess in round 3 she will be fast, which is not really what you want in PvP, because you don't want a fight to last more than 2 rounds. But from round 3 on, she would be considered fast. Decent stats, I guess, for a rogue hero. Double daggers. 2 melee physical attacks on target enemies, and that purges up to 1 buff on hit. Not sure if it applies the purges 1 buff on each hit or just in general, but it's pretty decent. So her whole stick is about buffing assassins and removing buffs or preventing buffs. Assassin allies gain 1 stack of empowered, which heals once abilities are used. Then make a melee physical attack on all enemies for base damage. That applies 1 stack of wounded. Wounded reduces the healing they receive and does some damage each turn. This ability is considered single target. Yes, so she can actually gain hasted from it. Melee physical attack on target enemy for a bunch of base damage that applies to 1 stack of weaken for 3 turns on hit, or 2 stacks to caster class enemies. Weakened, I think, reduces the damage they do. Something, yeah, I think damage. And cleanses all debuff on self, pretty strong. Purges all buffs on target enemy, if they have any. Then makes a melee physical attack on the target for a bunch of base damage and starts powered. And a 5 turn, 2 turns, and 6 turns. 2 turns is pretty strong. You can use this every second turn basically. No epic obviously, because epics are not in the game yet. And yeah. So overall, Serenity, pretty good. But probably not worth using for the hastened buff. Probably only worth for removing and preventing buffs on the enemy team. Mazuta Kira. We have the normal Mazuta Kira skin and the Raijin Mazuta Kira. I don't know why it took me here. But this is what the Raijin would look like. I apparently don't have it. I'm not sure why, but okay. Undead don't stand a chance against this Ninja of the Light. Yes. Fast, obviously. Dexterous has an additional 3% chance to dodge and 3% chance to crit. It applies on the crit, but doesn't apply on the dodge. Nice. Executioner deals increased damage the lower the health of targets are. I think this goes up to double damage, almost. Like, obviously if you do double damage, they're already dead, so yeah. Basically for every 10% health they are missing, you deal 10% more damage. Pawn Undead deals an additional 25% damage to undead enemies, really strong. Battle Surge gains 1 energy for each enemy they defeat, really strong, especially for PvE farming. And Tenacious Assault has a 25% chance to make a Death Blossom attack at the end of each round. Decent stats. Death Blossom is this ability here. Gonna be right with it. Basic attack. Basic melee physical slash attack. Okay. So we have claw, bite, slash. I don't know why, but I think I hope they have something in mind. Death Blossom. 2 ranged physical attacks on all enemies for some base damage, each with an extra 15% chance to crit. So he has 8% plus another 15, so 23% chance for this to crit. Pretty good. And a 5 turn cooldown, where we have the 25% chance of each round to activate it again, which does not consume its cooldown. Assassinate. Melee physical attack for a bunch of base damage. If the target is defeated, this character will attack another random enemy with the same ability. Like, you can stack the assassinate. It can assassinate a whole room of enemies. This and this is really, really great for PvE speed farming. This, if you have a room full of enemies, like at least 4 enemies, you can just use this, it kills everything, and you have the ability ready for the next round again. If it's less than 4 enemies, you should use Assassinate. Because it also has a 5 turn cooldown, but it's gonna refresh this ability. And then we have Dim Muck. Melee physical attack on target with the highest base damage on this hero. That applies nerf damage, cannot be healed for 3 turns on hit. I'm pretty sure nerf damage is still kind of bugged. I think I've seen people heal through nerf damage, even if it shouldn't be able to do so. But yeah. Overall, Mazuta Kira S+ for speed farming. Obviously lower level than you are, since he won't be able to one-shot enemies on level 60 with abilities that do 200 damage, but still one of the best heroes for speed farming. Shadowblade. We have the normal Shadow Blade, and then we have the Master Shadow Blade. I apparently... Excuse me? Allergies. I apparently don't have the Master Shadow Blade skin. Alright. In an instant he strikes the enemy, and in the next avoids the enemy strike. Don't think so, with a 0% dodge chance. Fast, okay. Dexterous has an additional 3% chance to dodge and 3% chance to crit. The crit works, the dodge doesn't. Fierce, this character's attack is increased by 15%. Yes, it is. Vengeful will make a revenge attack against any enemy who crits them. Guess that's decent, even though you don't really want to be hit as an assassin. Executioner, yes, that's good. And Dark Minded, this character's attack is increased by 6% and defense by 4% for each other dark ally on the team. Pretty decent. Abilities. Slash, okay. From the shadows, purges up to 2 buffs and makes a melee physical attack on target enemy. Then applies 3 stacks of evading to self for 3 turns. So you get the evasion from his ability. Like, he doesn't really have any evasion by himself, but his ability applies it. And 5 turn cooldowns. Oof. Melee physical attack on target enemy. For a bunch of base damage that applies 3 stacks of poisoned. Pretty good. He does a lot of poison damage. Ranged physical attack on target enemy and 2 random enemies for a bunch of base damage that lifesteals 25% of the damage dealt. Also pretty good. I just want to point out something. Serenity has the little thing about hastened that gives her +1 to her speed after 2 turns whenever she hit enemies in melee single target physical attacks. The problem for that on an assassin team is, if you look, she is normal. Mazuta Kira is fast. Shadowblade is fast. Black Diamond is fast. It doesn't even do anything for an assassin team. So they really gotta think about how they wanna do families in this game. Because it's just stupid that you have the master of assassins, basically, like the legendary assassin that everyone in the assassin team should revolve around, give buffs that you can't even use for the other assassins. The same with his, what was it? Dark Minded. We have one dark hero in the assassin family. Why? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, Black Diamond. Normal skin. And her phantom skin. She wouldn't be recruited, said her mission was her own. Overlord executing. Okay. Fast. Prowess. This character's crits deal an additional 25% crit damage. Wow, we have that. Dexterous doesn't work. It does work on the crit chance, but not on the dodge. Deals an additional 25% damage to caster class enemies. Great. Applies 1 stack of wounded on crit. Decent. And this character's attack is increased by 10%, and whenever an enemy dodges their attack, their next attack will be guaranteed hit and crit. Works, at least for the 10% damage. We have Swing, not Slash. We have Blade Storm. Ranged physical attack on all enemies for a bunch of base damage that applies 3 stacks of wounded on hit, and if it crits, it applies even more wounded. Pretty good. Melee physical attack on target enemy for a bunch of base damage, then applies 2 stacks of Inspired to all. Inspired is the... Oh yeah, Inspired is the one where you get healing from using abilities, right. And melee physical attack, Assassinate. We've already seen this. The target is defeated, character will attack another random enemy. Yes. So, pretty acceptable, I guess. Doesn't really boost the damage of others, like she did in Dungeon Boss in the original, where she gave double damage on crits, which was pretty insane. But yeah, obviously no epics because they're not in the game yet. Overall, Serenity, meh. Could be good, but mostly for removing or preventing debuffs from being added. Mazuta Kira, pretty strong for PvE farming, as I said, one of the best. Shadowblade, could be decent. I mean, he has good single target damage, and he applies poisoned and stuff like that. And Black Diamond, kind of lackluster, definitely. Overall, I wouldn't use them in a team because, as I said, Serenity doesn't really boost assassins except for the 6% attack or whatever of 4%. What was it? 4%. And it's not even per assassin, it's just 4% for all of them. Like, doesn't really make a difference at all. So yeah, just because of the 4%, I wouldn't recommend using an assassin team. As sad as it is, but families don't really work right now. Like, there is almost no synergies going on between them. So you're kind of stuck with using just the best overall overtuned and overpowered heroes for PvP. PvE is a little bit more open, as I said with Mazuta Kira as an example. I wouldn't really recommend using Mazuta Kira in PvP, except if you're going against really weak enemies that you can't one-shot with as Assassinate. But other than that, I wouldn't recommend using any of these in their current state in PvP. Or Tower, obviously. PvP and Tower is basically the same. Both is incredibly hard, especially if you don't use the meta heroes. Alright, that's all I have for this video. Don't forget, new event on Friday, and 4 returning heroes from Dungeon Boss Original to Dungeon Boss Respawned. Get ready for the event. Bye bye.